Hello chess friends and welcome to Jozarov chess channel and welcome to a spectacular battle of the Julius Baer Generation Cup Division 1 quarterfinal stage between two very talented players, between Nodirbek Abdusattorov and Alireza Firouzja. The Julius Baer Generation Cup is now the 5th tournament of the Champion Chess Tour that's organized by chess.com, and in the quarterfinals we have already this spectacular derby between two very, as I said, spectacular talented players, the battle between Nodirbek and Alireza Firouzja. Also in the quarterfinals we have really great players like Fabiano Caruana, Magnus Carlsen, so it's really a dynamic tournament, and the tempo of this event is 15 minutes on the clock plus 3 seconds increment per move, so it's a rapid format, it's a dynamic format, many things can happen, many inaccuracies, mistakes on route, but of course also many great tactical shots can happen for sure, so really a beautiful chess event for us to follow in the next couple of days. And they have to play 4 rapid games. The better out of the 4 games is moving up to the next round. So as I said, let's see now one game and then I'll reveal you the final standings between Nodirbek Abdusattorov and Alireza Firouzja. So in the first game, Nodirbek opened with the move d4. Alireza's response was knight to f6, and after move c4, e6, knight to f3, the counter Nimzo or anti-Nimzo Indian setup. So with knight to c3, probably you're inviting your opponent into the Nimzo Indian defense with the move bishop to b4. We have d5. The game transposes now into structures of the Queen's Gambit decline, 3 knights variation, and now after bishop to e7 preparing castling, we have now the so-called Harvard's attack with bishop to f4. And this is really one of my favorite setups when I play with the white pieces. This is really one of my favorite attacking ideas, the Harvard's attack. I've created also many studies about the Harvard's attack here on my YouTube chess channel. You can check it out, maybe have a great preparation in these types of positions, in these types of structures. Here's the link of the playlist, please check it out. I think it's really one of the most important studies here on my YouTube chess channel. So after move bishop to f4, obviously white left a little bit the attack around the square d5, because white is searching for new opportunities. Usually when you play bishop to g5, it's a direct competition against this knight and f6 that's controlling the d5, that's controlling also the e4 square. So with this move bishop to f4, you're leaving a little bit the attack of the center, but you're keeping other possibilities, especially somewhere here on the queen side, so you're changing a little bit the direction of the attack. After move bishop to f4, king side castling, e3, now comes the so-called fianchetto defense, b6, a very interesting idea here by Alireza Firouzja, which is in my opinion even the best way to handle the Harvard's attack. Because what you're trying to do with the black pieces, you're trying to hit the center with the move c5, and we have to state white king is still stuck in the center, so it needs 2-3 more moves in order to secure the king. So that's why black is trying to play very aggressive with c5. Also interesting positional ideas are bishop to b7 moves, like bishop to b7 of course lead into structures where you're trying to occupy maybe the e4 square with the knight, and also bishop to a6 is quite interesting, because then you're keeping sort of a positional tension between the light square bishops here on this diagonal. So many opportunities I think here for black. Black is keeping the game very flexible with this fianchetto defense against the Harvard's attack. So in the game, that's why, because of the possibility of the c5 move, because of the possibility of dynamic play, white releases many times the pressure in the center with c takes d5, knight to d5, knight to d5, queen to d5. But now a very interesting idea here by Nodirbek, playing the move a3. I have to say it, I'm not a big fan of this move. It's not a mistake in accuracy or something, but I think it's a more positional move. When I play with the white pieces, I'm not saying it's better what I do, it's just a different approach. When I play this position, when the queen comes on d5, I like this idea, bishop to d3. Even allow your opponent maybe to play something like bishop to b4, and it seems so that white made a mistake, because white allowed an annoying check, and you don't want to play knight to d2, because then this pawn is saying, but actually with king to f1 this could be very tricky already for black to play the game. For instance, queen to c2 is already a threat hitting the pawn on h7. Queen to c2, queen to e4 is in one moment also an opportunity. The pawn on c7 is weak, so there are many dynamic opportunities here for white. Also, what black could do in this particular position instead of bishop to b4 is this idea, queen to a5. But now again we play king to f1, and now after something like bishop to d3, black usually allows allows here white to pick up now the pawn on c7 after bishop to d3, queen to d3. Black lost the pawn, but of course white has now this unpleasant position of the king, so it's now a double-edged line, very, very often played. For instance, there is a beautiful game played by Nakamura in which he destroyed with the black pieces also Fabiano Caruana in this position. So as I said, I'm not saying this whole approach with bishop to d3 is better, it's just, I think, more dynamic, more interesting. This move a3 prevents now this annoying checks with bishop to b4 and queen to a5, so it's a more positional approach, which gives now Alireza the opportunity to simplify the game. It creates a new tempo for black. I think black can now simplify the game, and of course white doesn't want to take. Again, it wouldn't be a mistake, but after here c takes d6, black would have, I think, very, very solid position with bishop to b7, knight to d7, later also to hit the center with the move e5. So I think it's a decent position for black for sure. Three games in this particular position I see in the database, all of them ended with a draw, so nothing spectacular. So that's why bishop to g3 here played by Nodirbek Abdusattorov. We have knight to d7 by Alireza, bishop to d3, knight to f6. So Alireza played this beautiful maneuver with the knight, but has now a very, very powerful position of the knight, also controlling the e4 square. We have kingside castling, bishop takes g3, h takes g3, and now c5. We have d takes c5. Obviously, you don't want to take, of course, with the b pawn, because it leads you into an isolated pawn structure, which is, of course, a structural weakness. So that's why queen to c5, but it allows now Nodirbek to attack the queen with rook to c1. Queen drops back, queen to c2, and now rook to d8. This move keeps the queen a little bit occupied to the defense of the bishop on d3. Now knight to e5 played by Nodirbek, and now bishop to d7. Here Alireza offers the bishop for the knight. Nodirbek is not accepting that, because after knight to d7 and the rook takes d7, okay, you could maybe hit the rook, but now rook to d5, rook to d8 could happen. Again, in my opinion, pretty equal position, but this light square bishop is not so dangerous anymore, because there are many pawns on dark square, so you can not really easy attack this pawn. So basically this light square bishop wouldn't have any support. So I liked here Nodirbek's approach to play the move queen to c7 to keep the position still more dynamic, to keep at least the pieces that you have on the board, so not to trade them further. But of course Alireza plays now knight to d5, kicks away the queen, and now with bishop to e8, which is in my opinion really one of the most brilliant moves of this particular position. He still has this rook connection. He has maneuvered now the bishop on maybe a strange square, but the bishop is protecting the pawn on f7 and keeps activity on the queen side. And also we have to say it, when you play with black, sometimes to simplify the game is perfect strategy. After move bishop to e8, this forces basically a trade of queens, and now still there is this problem of the bishop on d3. So that's why here bishop to a6 was played by Nodirbek Abdusattorov, maybe trying to get the bishop somehow very active, but this allows here Alireza Firouzja to get the rook on this very active rank, on the second rank, and that's how you're supposed to play with your rooks. Maybe rook from f to d1 should have been played here by Nodirbek, but then still f6, you have to drop back, e5. Suddenly black built some spaces here also on the king side. So as I said, still every of this position is pretty equal. I'm not saying that anyone should win these types of positions, but as I said, maybe rook to d1 slightly better to compete already against this rook on the d file. Bishop to a6, as we said, played by Nodirbek, rook to d2, hitting the pawn, and now rook to d1, simply too slow. Alireza says, okay, I'll accept the challenge, I'll take out now the pawn. Of course, you have now the opportunity to be very active with your bishop. This move bishop to b7 is not only attacking the rook on a8, it's also preventing the knight to jump on this centralized square on d5. Of course, rook to b8, we have rook to c7 by Nodirbek, and now knight to g6, and still this is playable, although white lost a pawn, because after knight takes g6, h takes g6, we play bishop to a6, we still hit the pawn here, and now you can maybe try attack this one, we can protect this one, you play b5, and after rook to a7, this should be again, a solid position for both sides, although maybe slightly better, of course, for black, because it's a strange position of the bishop. The bishop is a little bit locked here by the pawn on b5. But after move knight to g6 here that Alireza played, now the first really inaccuracy here, I think, by Nodirbek. He plays now a retreating move knight to f3, and okay, he had probably some ideas to maybe reroute the knight somehow on the queen side, but it's simply not working here. Rook to a2 was played by Alireza, simply attacking another pawn. We have bishop to c8 with the preparation to play rook to d8, but now h6, rook to d8, and now king to f8. Here, very nice compact setup here by Alireza. He's not allowing here any counterplay now for Nodirbek. So now knight to d4. Messed up move, wasn't really the suggested. Also, the engine really doesn't like this move. A better choice was simply to take now finally this pawn on a7, but it leads still into a complicated position after b5. The bishop on c8 is now finally paralyzed. Look at this bishop cannot move because of the tension here on the 8th rank. So you can maybe try e4, but look at this, after rook to a1 you have to step back, and now we will simply attack the bishop. So really strange position already for Nodirbek. Now there is this tactical sequence that could maybe solve many positional problems, but of course you cannot see something like this in fast time format. Look at this, rook to f7, king to f7, bishop to e6, king to e6. You pick up now the rook and you are down a pawn, but this pawn is weak on b5. Now we pick it up, and now after something like king to e4, maybe white can survive this position, because we have here 3 versus 2. We have here this extra pawn on the a file, but I think still, if black plays this game with perfect precision, that this should be winning, of course, for black with an extra piece. But maybe this was the way they go. So as I said, rook to a7, finally grabbing the pawn, but it's still so complicated in fast time format, almost impossible to see. So that's why knight to d4, which makes sense, of course. Here Nodirbek is trying to get the knight on c6 because he's attacking the rook. The bishop cannot take because of the tension on the 8th rank. But now a solid defensive move here by Alireza, knight to e7. We have now knight to b5, trying to get the knight on d6, but now Alireza again simplifies the game enough and plays now finally a beautiful defensive move, king to e7, gets out of this tactical mess on the 8th rank, and now finally, in my opinion, this should be a much better position here, of course, for black. Okay, here Nodirbek took out now the pawn on a7, but Alireza can also pick up now the pawn on a3, and it's simply a position where black is up a pawn. This is now, in my opinion, completely winning endgame here for Alireza Firouzja. Knight to c6, the king to d7. We have here this one after a couple of trades of pieces. This is perfectly fine for Alireza because he still has this extra pawn, and not that he only has this extra pawn. Now first brilliant move here really by Alireza, rook to a1, getting the king out of this position, so the king is now far away from the action. And now another beautiful move, applying the Starashul, which says that you should bring, of course, your rook behind your pawn, and this pawn is now unstoppable. Here we have g4. Alireza simply pushed the pawn further. Rook to b7. If you trade it off, then it's game over, of course, for white. Simply now, after a couple of checks, here Alireza pushed the pawn further. Again, only a couple of checks are possible, but never really perpetuals. And after move, king to e1. In this particular position, Nodirbek Abdusattorov resigned. This pawn is unstoppable. Maybe you can sack it somehow in a strange way for the pawn, but whatever you do, it's game over here for white. Interesting game, I think, for sure, because it came out of a really equalish opening in which Alireza showed more attacking ideas, attacking chances, and he won eventually his quarterfinals against Nodirbek Abdusattorov with a clear result. He won the first 3 games out of 4 games, which is really crazy. Good performance by Alireza. He is now, of course, one of the favorites to win the whole thing. So, okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. Really interesting ideas here played by these 2 very talented players, Nodirbek and Alireza. If you want to see more commented chess games here on my YouTube chess channel, here are some playlists of some games that we have analyzed before. And if you're, as I said, interested into the studies of the Harvard's attack and also into studies of some other structures of the Queen's Gambit decline, here's also the link of our playlist. Please enjoy and have a good preparation in these types of positions. So see you soon with some more videos, and what do we say? Chess is the best, of course.